Well, welcome back. Within 3 years of aging out of foster care, more than 70% of our youth face threats of homelessness, incarceration, or mental health crisis.
That's right. But Belmont Innovation Labs is working to change that. They've created a program that supports foster youth through mentorship. Please welcome the Director of Innovation, Tom Baldwin. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
This program is so interesting because, from Belmont, you're used to like music or business programs, but this is like really diving in to solve big social problems. Let's talk about the approach here.
Yeah, so we want to continue to be recognized for those things, but we want to use them in a way that allows for leaders to come and handle complex challenges or launch new initiatives through kind of a collaborative process that we use of bringing people together to really focus on what's the place that they want to go fix. It's about solving complex issues. So we'll assemble them, run a pretty straightforward process with them. This allows for an expansion of the classroom experience for students and faculty. Once we know what the key issue is that we want to go solve, how do we then start to think about what does the funding landscape and what does the organization and provider landscape look like, and then how can we invest behind solutions that really get after that key issue that those leaders are looking to solve. And then on the back end of that, we measure the effectiveness of those outcomes to really make sure that the investments that we're making are moving the needle in some of these really challenging spaces.
At the top, we mentioned some kind of startling statistics about foster children. And what would you say are the biggest and most concerning issues they face when they turn 18?
Yeah, so I'm an adoptive dad, but I did not know the foster space that well. As we started to unpack it, we really looked at what's the existing research that's been done on transition age youth, so youth reaching the end of state support. And then once we had a basic understanding of the need, we then spent a lot of time talking to foster youth themselves, foster youth that had recently exited the system. That's a core part of the process and the approach, which is how do we understand it from their point of view? And as we started to talk to them, there were somewhat traditional needs that they had in terms of affordable and access to affordable housing. But then there were some things we heard that hadn't really been focused on that intensely, which was how do we figure out this supportive adult relationships? Like how do we match them with people who will walk with them on their early adulthood journey? A lot of us had parents that we could still rely on to call about all kinds of basic needs. They don't have that infrastructure. So supportive adult relationships are probably the most important thing that ensures some level of transition success. And then also mental health care, because of the experience they've been through and what they're dealing with. Mental health care access, both in terms of being customized for their experience and accessible to them in a format and delivery method that works for them, is critically important. So supportive adult relationships, mental health care support, and access to affordable housing were the top three.
Yeah. And you said you've already seen one teen apply for college, which is very exciting. We are rooting them on. How did you narrow it down to this topic? Because like you said, you can apply this when it's successful to other issues within Nashville. But how did you first choose, foster youth to be the issue that you wanted to highlight?
Well, we're setting up an umbrella across 3 areas as Belmont University: health and healthcare, culture and entertainment, which goes back to our background, and then community and regional thriving. And so those are our 3 areas of focus. The state of Tennessee is looking broadly at how to solve the foster care crisis through Every Child Tennessee program. One of the areas that they're looking at is this age out. And they came to us saying, we'd like to understand this space better. How do we focus on what's the most important? And then how do we start to galvanize providers and the community around resourcing that in the most effective way? And that's what our process is really intended to do. So it is able to be applied across a number of different areas, but the state had a need. They had a group of cross-sector leaders who wanted to solve this together, and that's another key part is, do we have a cross-sector group of leaders who want to walk towards providing a solution? And we've been walking with them, about 18 months as we get to the place now where we've identified what we'd like to do, and now we're raising some funds to go try and go do it.
Clearly, you're very passionate about it. What has been the most rewarding part about the Innovation Lab and the work y'all are doing?
That's a good question. I mean, the most rewarding part will be once we find organizations that can handle this at the scale we need, and that's what we intend to do. But in terms of what we've seen so far, I mean, the finding a foster youth that we interviewed that enrolled in higher ed. She's enrolled in college. Less than 3% of all foster youth do that. So we are absolutely rooting her on. One of the cross-sector stakeholders and the leaders in the community that we started walking with really had an awakening moment for him in terms of like how he could leverage his business to do more work in this space. And so now he's repivoted his nonprofit and using his business as more of a vehicle to solve more of these solutions for kids. And so we feel like there's an opportunity both in terms of the identification of solving this challenge, but also the leaders we walk with can also have moments where they start to see opportunities about the way they can get involved in a way that maybe they hadn't seen before.
It's wonderful. These youth need all the support they can get. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll read more about this program and how it's making an impact. Visit belmont.edu/innovation-labs and click on the Foster Care Lab to learn more.